All right, let's dive into something that pretty much all of us have lived through, grades. From that very first report card all the way up to your final transcript in college, they are just always there. But today, we're going to dig into a really provocative idea, one that's backed by a ton of research that pretty much challenges everything we've ever been told about A's, B's, and C's.
I mean, just think about that for a second. Seriously, all the stress, the all-nighters, that intense pressure to get an A, what if that whole system, the one we've always been told is totally essential for measuring how smart we are, is actually doing the exact opposite of what it's supposed to? What if it's getting in the way of real, honest-to-goodness learning? I know, it's a huge claim, so let's unpack it.
And look, this isn't just someone's opinion or a hot take. There's a really compelling body of research that all points to this one kind of startling conclusion. Grades don't just fail to help, they can actually cause real harm. They can completely undermine the real goals of education. Things like curiosity, intellectual passion, and just deeply understanding something. So let's break down exactly how this happens.
Okay, so the argument against grades really boils down to three major interconnected problems. These are the specific, measurable effects that researchers see time and time again when they study students who are graded versus those who aren't. Think of these as the three big pillars holding up the case against grades.
So here they are, plain and simple. First, grades have a tendency to just kill a student's natural interest in what they're learning. Second, they actually make students shy away from real challenges. And third, they encourage thinking that's just superficial, skin deep, instead of real, deep engagement. Let's take a closer look at each one, because this is where it all starts to click.
This first one gets right to the heart of motivation. I mean, think about a hobby you absolutely love, playing guitar, painting, whatever. Now imagine someone started grading you on it every single day. All of a sudden, that thing you did for joy starts to feel like a chore, right? Well, research shows learning is exactly the same. The moment you slap a grade on it, the student's thinking shifts from, wow, this is fascinating, to, okay, what do I need to do to get a good grade? The intrinsic love of learning just starts to fade.
And that leads directly to this next point. It's a totally logical outcome. If the number one goal is the A, not the learning itself, well then a student's entire strategy is going to change. Why on earth would you risk picking a really complex, fascinating project that would stretch your skills, but might get you a B, when you could just pick the easiest, shortest book, guarantee the A, and call it a day? The system itself rewards playing it safe. It literally punishes you for taking intellectual risks, which is ironically where all the best learning really happens.
This leads right to our third point. And this quote, my gosh, every teacher and every parent has heard this a million times. That question, is this going to be on the test? It's a perfectly rational response to the system. It's the student's way of asking, what is the absolute bare minimum I need to memorize to get the points? The focus just shifts away from understanding the why and the how, from wrestling with big ideas to just cramming facts for short-term recall. It turns learning into a checklist, not an adventure.
So, if grades are doing all this damage to actual learning, it makes you ask a much bigger question. What are they actually for? I mean, if they aren't helping students learn better, what is their real purpose in our schools? And this is where the diagnosis gets, well, a little uncomfortable.
This slide really lays it all out side by side. We all assume grades are there to give us feedback and measure what we've learned. But the argument here is that their real function, the way they're actually used, is as a tool for control. It's a way to make students do work they might not want to do. If the stuff being taught isn't engaging on its own, well, grades become the stick to make sure you do it anyway.
And the system works on a really simple principle: bribes and threats. A good grade is the reward, the bribe, for doing what you're told. A bad grade is the punishment, the threat, for not complying. It basically turns education into this behavioral loop. It's not about helpful feedback anymore. It's about using outside pressure to manage kids and make them complete assignments. And what's the result of all this? Well, it creates what some have called grade grubbers. Now, this is really, really important. This is not a knock on the students. Not at all. A student who's arguing with a teacher over half a point isn't a bad kid. They are acting perfectly rationally inside the world we've built for them. We, the adults, have told them for years that points and GPAs are what matter most, so of course they become addicted to chasing points. That's the game we've taught them to play.
Okay, I know, that was a pretty tough diagnosis of the problem. So if the system is so broken, what's the alternative? Is it just total chaos? Nope, not at all. There are actually schools out there that have gotten rid of traditional A through F grades, and what they've found is pretty amazing. Let's take a look at what a solution can look like.
So, the upsides of going grade-free, they're not just warm and fuzzy ideas. We're talking about concrete results.
Schools that make this change discover that their students are not only happier and less stressed, but they're often better prepared for college and the real world. And maybe most importantly, they get back that natural curiosity, that desire to learn that the pressure of school can so easily stamp out.
So why does this happen? What's the secret sauce? Honestly, it's really simple. When you take away that constant, nagging pressure to optimize every single decision for your GPA, you free up a ton of mental and emotional space. Space for curiosity. Space to take a chance on a hard class just because it sounds cool. Space to fall down a rabbit hole on a project, not because it's for the test, but just because you genuinely want to know more. It lets learning feel like an adventure again.
And you can really see that shift right here. In a traditional system, a huge chunk of a student's mental energy, a massive amount, is all focused on that GPA bar. But when you take that away, all of that focus, all of that brain power can get pointed back where it's supposed to be, on actual learning and discovery. Students start asking, what can I learn from this? Instead of just, what do I need to get an A?
All right, so we've walked through the problem, the diagnosis, and what a solution might look like. So what's the big takeaway from all this? It really asks all of us to completely rethink what success in school even means.
This quote, man, it's from a student, and it's absolutely heartbreaking, isn't it? But it's also so incredibly revealing. It perfectly captures the very real human cost of this system. This feeling that you're giving up your youth, your interests, maybe even your integrity by cutting corners, all for a letter on a piece of paper. It really forces you to ask, is the price of that almighty A just way too high?
And that's really the heart of it. We need to completely reframe the goal. A truly great education shouldn't be about churning out kids who are experts at playing the game of school. The real goal should be to help every student reconnect with that deep, internal satisfaction that you only get from truly understanding something new, from building something cool, and from just following your own curiosity wherever it leads.
And that brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. It's a really simple question, but it represents a massive shift in what we value. Just imagine. Imagine a world where the main conversation we have with our kids about school isn't about their rank or their score, but about what they discovered, what excited them, what they learned. What amazing things could they achieve if we finally freed them to focus on what actually matters? That's the big question. Thanks for thinking it through with me.